Hello again and welcome back to the studio.
If you've always wondered how to capture the essence of powerful waves crashing against the rocks, this video is for you. We'll go from a quick sketch to the small study in just 15 minutes. Small studies like this one are an efficient way to experiment with different techniques and colours before committing them to a canvas. And as we go, I'll share lots of useful time and energy saving tips, so look out for the blue banners on screen. So we're going to need white, green, blue and brown paint. To save ourselves some time and energy, we're going to pre-mix our colours. So I've started by adding a little bit of green to my white paint to make a lighter green. And I'm going to take a white, mix it with blue to make a lighter blue. And then I can add more blue to make a darker shade of blue. And if I mix the blue and green together later on, it will give me a nice ocean color. And I'll take some of that white, add a little brown to it to make some lighter brown for some parts of the rocks that I can see, and maybe for the sand. So I'm just looking at the reference photo and deciding to mix a few colors beforehand that will help me later on. I'm going to make sure I'm nice and comfortable, and I'm going to start sketching. I'm sketching on some toned paper today, but you don't have to do that. You can sketch on any surface that you prefer. So I'm using some diluted raw umber. I've just diluted it with a little medium, and I'm just making a few very simple lines just to outline parts of the painting that I think are important. And I'm just making very simple shapes for the rocks, like little rectangles. We can always make them look more realistic during the painting process. And I'll add a few dotted lines just to indicate where I want that crashing wave to come up against the rock. Just a few lines here and there just to guide us later on. Now that our sketch is done, we can start blocking in the main colors. So I'm using a nice big brush, and I'm using very quick brush strokes, and I'm just going to block in a nice light blue for the sky. And I'm not too worried if I can still see some of my underpainting shining through. That adds to the overall look of the painting. Now I'm going to take a darker blue, and we need to fill in the ocean up to the horizon with the darker blue. So again, using the biggest brush I possibly can to fit the space, I'll just quickly fill in that darker blue for the ocean. And once I've done that, I'm going to take some of that blue and mix it with the green, and then we can block in the ocean. And we'll add a little bit of white as we get nearer to that crashing wave in the front. Now that our water's in, we can block in the sand. So we're going to take our brown mixed with white to fill in the sand area. And again, using nice quick brush strokes. And then I'll take a soft, clean, dry brush and I'll start blending the colors together. Blending is useful for these small studies because it smooths out any kind of lines that we might make with the brush. And it also removes a tiny amount of paint from the surface of the paper, and that will help us to layer more paint on later on. Now we can get some of our brown and we can start blocking in those rocks in the middle of the water. And I've switched to a smaller brush here to make it easier to fit the shape of the rock. And as I'm doing that, I'm actually just making it look more rock shaped rather than just a rectangle. Now that our water has been established, we need to put on the details. So we're going to add the light parts to the water. Now I've mixed together some white into that turquoisey color of the ocean. We're not using pure white at this stage, just a very light bluish color. And I'm just going to apply it along the top of the back wave and along the front of that curling wave in the front as it rolls over and starts crashing against the rock. I'm going to start working on the large wave in the foreground, and as I'm painting, I'm following the contour lines of the wave with my brush. I'm trying to mimic the movement of the water. And when we get to the bottom of the wave, I'm just dabbing the paint on in a very rapid motion. I want to mimic the energy and the movement of that wave. And sometimes I turn the brush to the side to get a different mark, because we want to vary our mark making. We don't want the same marks all the time. This will create added interest for the viewer, but it will also add texture to our painting. Now we need to add some form to that crashing wave, so the far side of the wave needs to be a bit darker. So I've just added a tiniest little amount of brown to that turquoisey mix to make a darker shade of turquoise, and I'm making it even darker towards the beginning of the rock where the water overlaps with the rock, and a little bit of the shadow under the rock. This will make our wave look more 3D and give it a bit of form. And while I've got that brown on the brush, I'm just going to go in and add some darker tones to some of the rock to make it look more realistic. While we were working on the wave, our sky has dried a little, the paint has dried, so we can now go back in with some of that blue, strengthen the sky, tidy up the horizon, and maybe add a few wispy clouds in the background. Now we've only got a couple of minutes left, so we can go in with our brush and we can add those very satisfying finishing touches. We can make some splashes in the water. I'm just using a tapping motion with my brush to make the splashes, and I'm actually using white at this point. We haven't used pure white yet. We've just been using a very light blue, and now we can go in with the white and put all the sparkly bits on. So I'm just tapping the brush here and there to add the splashes and the sparkles, and I think I might just refine that darker side of the wave as well, so I might go back in with some of that darker color here and there just to refine the wave. I hope you've enjoyed this short, easy painting tutorial. If you'd like some other quick, low-energy art ideas, I've actually made a printable mini guide. There's about 5 tiny art exercises to spark your creativity anytime. Also, if you'd like some more time and energy-saving tips, I've created a printable for that. You can download it and keep it near your art area to help you on those low-energy days. The links for both of these products are in the description box below, and they're completely free. If you try any of them, let me know in the comments or tag me in your art. I'd love to see what you create. And now a quick sprinkle with some diluted white paint, just to give it that overall splashy effect. There we go. a beautiful crashing wave in just 15 minutes. How good is that? Thank you so much for watching and for following along and for subscribing. If you're feeling inspired, you might want to try these tutorials too. And I'll see you in the next video.